Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming back. This is Track C, Section 3, Fast Track Strategy for Cutting Quality Costs by Joe Bollard from Beacon Quality. Appreciate his time, and I think I'm looking forward to this. I want to know how to cut costs fast. Joe?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Bollard. I'm one of the senior account executives with Ease. Appreciate you joining today. Got the coveted after lunch time slot, which is hopefully everyone stays awake. I'll throw some candy at you or something to keep you awake, so I appreciate it. So just real quickly, wanted to do a little bit of an introduction as to what layered process audits are, talking about the benefits of layered process audits, and most importantly, how things can be implemented within your organizations or take this message to other organizations about LPAs. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I guess the first thing that I wanted to discuss, just kind of tell a quick story. So when I was a kid, I used to go fishing with my grandfather up at a lake up in Northern California around Lake Tahoe, and go fishing every summer with him. He had an old tin aluminum boat that we would go out in, and we'd go fishing every summer, probably when about 6 or 7 years old. And we'd get out there and we'd start fishing, and within about 10 or 15 minutes, your feet started to get a little wet. He was notorious for not fixing much, and his boats were always leaky, and they were always taking in water. So I figured that was the reason why he always brought me, was to bail out the water and use a bucket and keep him up and keep us afloat. So after a couple summers, I started to catch on of why he was bringing me along, and that I was there to simply just keep the water out, and instead of just fixing the boat, he used me to keep bailing out all the water. The bucket itself had holes in it, so it was kind of an inefficient process of both rusted boat and both rusted bucket. So as doing that, and as my summers went on, for Grandpa's birthday, he received a new bucket. And so I brought him a new bucket one year, and it changed my life. But at the same time, he still caught as many fish as he usually did. So eventually, we decided it's time for Grandpa to get a new boat, or patch up those holes. It kind of relates to what I'm going to talk about today, about layered process audits. In manufacturing, reducing quality costs is kind of like a leaking boat. You empty out the bucket after bucket and throw it over the side, but you can't get above water. And you try and plug them up, but those plugs or those leaks, every time you plug one up, something else appears. There's a new problem or a new incident that we need to take care of. Mostly the fixes are temporary. How do we hold those gains? How do we make sure that those are permanent solutions? And also, what's the shape of your bucket? Does your bucket have holes itself, or are you using a more effective tool to be doing this? So effective actions need to be executed with effective tools. Manufacturers are finding that layered process audits, or what I'll probably refer to them as LPAs more commonly, are a type of high-frequency audit. These are involving all levels of management within the plant, within the location, within an organization. And they're a singular, powerful method of permanently repairing those leaks in quality. So LPAs have helped automotive, aerospace, other general manufacturing organizations achieve a significant quality cost reduction in just a few months. It doesn't take years for this to have an impact. Also providing a structured framework that fosters a culture of quality within the organization. You can't just implement something and then hopefully everyone just catches on and jumps onto the boat. It has to be something that's from the top level down. The trick is managing the complexity of these unique audits, which where automation software, what we do at Ease, comes into play and helps make huge strides in quality reductions. So let's review a little bit of what we're going to be discussing today, just to kind of give you a little quick agenda. Just talking about layered process audits, LPAs, talk about how we can reduce the costs, how LPAs really stems from a culture of quality versus just, hey, it's something new that we're going to try out and hopefully it works out for us. The challenges of implementing an LPA, that's a huge item there. Overcoming the complexities of a paper-based process or a really kind of rudimentary type of method to a little bit more of a streamlined automated solution really helps out with that. And then obviously closing the loop on LPAs. All right, so just to kind of give us a little bit of, let me get this here. Layered process audits reduce variation and defects through repeat verification from operators. They follow this, that really typically follow a standardized process. So why is it needed when we have so many checks and balances already in place? It's because LPAs focus on the real issue, which are processes, which are things that are done every single day, the same way, every single time. In fact, a study in 2016 by Applied Logistics showed that a full 75% of manufacturer defects result from nonconformances with processes, which is why LPAs are such an effective way of reducing quality costs. So what are LPAs? What are layered process audits? They're typically a very short, fast audit that can be executed. Typically, you'll see yes or no questions, pass or fail questions, something that's very defined and easy for the operator or the auditor to complete these audits. We know that these auditors aren't professionally trained auditors. They're typically the folks on the shop floor, on the lines, actually doing these LPAs. They could be from different departments as well. You can have your finance folks come in, you can have your HR folks come in and do an LPA. That's the whole purpose of them, is to be very simple, very straightforward, take about 10 or 12 minutes to complete one of these LPAs. Cross-functional, cross-departmental. So past quality issues, just some of the ways that you can base your questions around it. Past quality issues and defects resulting in corrective actions, process failures or PFMEAs, and then procedures critical to product quality or customer satisfaction. So those are the things that we need to focus on when we're looking at LPAs. And what's the main cause? What's the root cause of some of these defects or nonconformances? Or where can we drill down to actually find out within our shop floor what's happening? So examples of what an LPA question should be. You want them to be really simple, really straightforward. You don't want them to be kind of ambiguous and open to their own interpretation. So on the screen you can see a couple examples of LPA questions. Traditionally, you want to have an audit specific with that location with the plant. It doesn't have to be just for the plant floor. It could be for the entire plant or a division or a line. It can also include like shipping and returns and your dock audits, things of those nature. The key is to have these questions really specific, so they're pretty simple, straightforward enough so that anyone in the organization can answer them. The key to improvement is to also build upon those questions or to hold the gains. So are we still letting water in our boat, or are we actually sealing things up? Are we completing or closing out those specific nonconformances with the questions we're asking? So a couple other strategies for writing better layered process audit questions. So this is a little bit into yes, we're going to do LPAs. Yes, we want to identify where these nonconformances are happening. But how do we get these questions a little bit more succinct? How do we get them a little more fine-tuned versus, is this station look good to you? Well, it's open to interpretation on that one right there. So how do we make our questions a little bit more fine-tuned? So finding a good source. So mainly LPAs should focus on areas that pose the biggest risk to product quality, safety, organizational structures. The first place to look for an LPA question should be in any area that has had previous problems. Other areas with high risk operational or process areas such as fabrication setup, final assembly, areas where a lot of manufacturing process or people are involved. Other areas that are high risk as well. So just making sure that reporting on scrap or similar issues, root cause investigations, results in previous corrective actions. Those are good places to start as to where you need to start with your questions. The latest version of IATF 16949 has actually mandated any customer complaints. You need to put in an LPA question to kind of hold that gain. So when that complaint comes back to you, you can do a root cause or an 8D, figure out exactly why that happened, implement a question into your LPAs, execute LPAs so that you can hold those gains from what you're actually collecting information from. Design simple and straightforward questions. So as I mentioned before, you've got a difference of opinion or a difference of interpretation from questions. So try to avoid words like proper or appropriate, because you don't really know what's appropriate for this auditor versus that auditor. So make it a little bit more fine-tuned when you're actually asking these questions. So instead of saying, are defective parts disposed of properly? Well, what does properly mean? You can kind of change the question and say, are all defective parts tagged and set aside in a container clearly marked with the red tape? So it's very simple, very easy and straightforward for the auditor to say, got it, understood, yes, it's done, or no, it's not. And then refresh the questions regularly. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep asking the same 10 questions every single time, year in and year out, because a lot of things start happening. You get pencil whipping from the auditors. They'll start just ticking the boxes and saying yes, yes, yes. You're asking the same questions every single time, so the auditors get accustomed to that. Is it something that's a really simple question? Is the green light on? Well, yeah, of course. The plant would be down if the green light's not on. So you want to make those questions a little bit more specific, fine-tuned, and then refresh them to add new areas, to add new fresh data every single time. So now that we've got kind of good questions and that our bucket hopefully doesn't have holes in it, so we're using the right tool to do this, now we need to take a look at who should be on our LPA team. So here's another, just a quick view of what layered process audits should consist of, or typically kind of the framework of what layers are. So you've got layer 1s, 2, and 3, and it can go as far as you would like to. Typically 3 or 4 is probably the max of what I've seen. But layer 1s are going to be your daily auditors, those folks that are actually conducting audits every single day. They go to different areas, different locations, and as they're doing them, they're able to gather that information for you, put that information back into reports, and send them back. Your layer 2s, maybe those are your quality managers or line operator managers or supervisors that do maybe a weekly audit. Maybe they've got a quick overview that they need to do of all the daily auditors, but they are responsible for those folks. And then layer 3s, maybe those are the executive team. And this is kind of where the layered process audits really come into play and pack quite a bit of a punch when you have your executive team on the shop floor once a month doing an LPA. It sends a big message to the folks that typically are doing LPAs that they say, you know what, our executive team is engaged. Our executive team is actually doing the same types of audits that we are. And so that's where the fostering of a culture of quality really comes into play, when they're seeing those executive folks on the shop floor doing it, versus just, hey, I do it every single day, it's just what my job is supposed to be. So really kind of helps and benefits them there. So the bigger, faster quality cost reductions. So compared to traditional inspections and audits, LPAs provide added layers of security to catch process variation before they cause defects or safety incidents. By generating large volumes of data, LPAs also increase the visibility into the drivers of the quality of cost. So in our experience, metrics where LPAs have the biggest impact include like scrap and rework. So companies that have implemented LPAs have been able to cut scrap costs in half and over just a few months. It doesn't take a long time to actually see that happen. Customer returns. LPAs implemented are also tied to about 50% reduction of customer defects in some organizations that we've implemented with. Other companies have reported going months or longer without any customer returns. So it's also those customer returns when they come back, it's also the cost of brand damage as well. So how can you recover from a huge return back to your company, and there's a big kind of black eye for your organization. And then obviously total cost of quality. So reducing the quality costs has a direct impact on the bottom line and revenue growth. So one reason that quality costs increase exponentially as you move from prevention to detection and from detection to correction is the actual failures. So we've got a few items and few ways that we can actually increase and improve that culture of quality within your organization, as I mentioned before, with having your executive team involved. So kind of that company-wide engagement really helps out. LPAs kind of break auditing out of that administrative silo. So now you've got multiple departments, multiple, I guess, seniority folks on the shop floor doing these audits and doing these LPAs. So it's adding a little bit more of a closer knit feel within your organization, within the plant. Proactive risk management. So LPAs identify issues that impact customer satisfaction rather than just kind of at the one single point of manufacture. Their structure also supports a general goal of corrective actions, which is permanently reducing risk. So top-level prioritization, this is kind of what I've been talking about, is to make management visible and have them on the presence of the shop floor. It's powerful evidence of the authentic commitment to quality. LPAs are a daily activity keeping everyone focused on quality and a proactive improvement. Ongoing communication. So are we distributing this? Who's being notified? LPAs give operators the chance to share observations, suggestions directly with management. When they see leadership cares enough to be present to fix the problems, they're more likely to speak up. And then accountability. LPAs give you the hard data when you want to see who's participating, who's falling behind, who's not doing their audits, who's late on their audits, who's pencil whipping their audits. It also makes it easier to identify individuals for special recognition. Hey, you've done all your audits, you've been finding some great finds for us, we want to do some special recognition for this operator or for this supervisor, whoever it is. So cultural benefits aren't always tangible, but they're essential building blocks to achieving that ambitious quality cost reductions. But there are challenges of implementing LPAs. It sounds great, it looks great, there's a lot of great benefits that come along with it, but here's some ways that you need to be careful when implementing LPAs. So they struggle with implementing because of the inefficiency of, for one, paper process. That can be a quick way to derail your LPA system. Spreadsheet tracking, it's a common stumbling blocks. So inefficient scheduling is one of the first ways. So how do we schedule out these audits? How do I know my frequencies? How often do these audits need to be sent out? A given plant can probably conduct upwards of about 1,000 audits per year. And they're trying to meet those LPA requirements. Companies often need to devote a full-time or a couple full-time employees to administering LPAs or tracking or managing LPAs. Low audit completion rates. We've implemented, looks good, we deployed it, but no one's doing it. So still no one's doing these LPAs because they found that the paper process is too troublesome, too cumbersome. They find that they don't know exactly where to go, what they need to do. I was just given a checklist, well now what am I supposed to do with it? Data integrity. So getting good data from LPAs is sometimes impossible when you're just flying through audits and just doing the pencil whipping. You're not getting the attention or the eyeballs that you would like to get on these LPA, these checklists when people are just whipping through these. Analytical bottlenecks. So manual data entry and analysis can be extremely time consuming to those folks that you point in this direction of LPAs. They get them back from the operators. Now what do I do with them? Do I put them in a filing cabinet? Do I track those nonconformances? Do I see what do I do with the corrective action? So yes, we're doing them. Yes, we're collecting them. But all this information, what do I do with it? So that's where a lot of folks that we speak with are kind of in that doom loop of, well, at least we're doing it, but we're not doing them very effectively or efficiently. And then outdated checklists. Probably one of the first things to go when a lot of folks start kind of running into the problem areas with LPAs is they start saying, all right, we're not going to keep these updated, and you know, whatever we asked last month, sure, that's probably good for this month. Let's just keep that ball rolling. So good way to make sure that your LPAs are fresh and new is hopefully avoiding that type of bottleneck that happens in the outdated checklist. So there's no A for effort on this one. You know, like I said, there are some folks that try and do it just because they're asked to do layered process audits, and maybe you know, an auditor comes around and says, all right, looks good, at least you're doing them. But we want to make sure that these folks are actually getting value and benefit out of layered process audits, not just ticking the box and skating by or doing the bare minimum. So probably the most important thing is that, like, if a customer audit, they come and they audit you and they find a stack of checklists of unprocessed data, it's probably not going to look very good. So in fact, manufacturer suppliers have learned the hard way that it's not really worth it to put the whole operation at risk. So overcoming complexity of LPAs through automation. That's kind of what we do at EASE, is we help these organizations get from that paper process to a more automated system where you don't have to have those headaches of paper, you don't have to have those headaches of all this data coming back in and what do I do with it? So for companies that start with a paper-based process, that's great. You're on the right track. LPA tracking, keeping up with those high frequencies, and that transition to an automated solution can really, really benefit. So one of the biggest advantages of LPA software is that it allows any size company to produce results quickly and to get visibility immediately. Automated LPA software are built around the AIAG, or Automotive Industry Action Group, the CQI-8 guidelines for layered process audits. So the first of which is kind of reducing the administrative overhead. LPAs they take a little bit of time. They're a lot of administrative time to go through them, schedule them, drive reports, find all that information. So want to make sure that we can alleviate or eliminate a lot of those headaches and that time lost. Improving resource efficiency. So depending on the plant size, it's common to allocate as many as 2 to 3 full-time employees to this. With an automated solution, you can have those folks get back to their daily operations. You've got everything locked down on the automated system. Get instant visibility into the data. So as soon as something's identified on the shop floor, it can be notified to executives, to plant managers, to quality managers, whoever's responsible for that area can be notified immediately versus we did it on a piece of paper, it gets pushed to Sally, Sally takes a look at it, she puts it in a filing cabinet, and it's lost. We don't know what happened, we don't know why it failed, we don't know any information. The automated system can actually push it out a lot faster and have automated emails go sent out to folks. Obviously, completion rates will rise when you give your auditors a tool to do this a little bit more effectively and efficiently. Maybe it's something about iPads and iPhones when they can do an audit and it's a little bit easy and simple to do, you're going to get better completion rates in there. Most importantly probably is having that culture of quality to say, you know what, our executive teams on the shop floor are doing audits as well. They've got their iPad, they've got their smartphone, and they're actually doing it, so I need to do it as well. So it kind of sets the tone and sets that culture of quality. Protecting the data integrity, question randomization, being able to change up your questions, being able to not have stagnant checklists is a huge benefit and perk of having an automated system. And then refining the checklist as often as needs. So if you guys if your customers or an organization had some defects or had some complaints that came back, you now have the ability to change up your checklist, change up your questions, make sure that you're asking the appropriate questions that kind of are tailored to those defects in order to hold those gains and to keep that information fresh and new every single time versus, like I said, same checklist for the month of September, let's keep this rolling for October, who knows. All right, so in addition to streamlining the audits themselves, companies can expect faster, simpler LPA implementations with an automated software. Paper-based systems can take months, if not years, to develop, to implement, and then whereas you have an off-the-shelf automated system built in place, ready to go and be deployed with training and with support. Closing the loop on the LPAs, probably, perhaps the most important thing in the automotive and at least in aerospace manufacturers is to know that LPAs help close the loop on data. And that means addressing those minor nonconformances on the spot. So being able to identify, to notify, and then correct. Moving larger issues to a more formal corrective action. So escalating this, assigning those out to responsible parties, and then having a tool for upper management to make those approvals for. And then adding new questions to make sure that you're verifying and holding those gains in the system. So too many companies, particularly those overwhelmed with the details of LPAs, let audits just sit there, and they sit a while the issues continue to back up and drive up costs. So not only does ignoring the problems increase their safety risks, it also jeopardizes the business and brand damage as well. So that boat that keeps kind of filling up with water and you're not bailing it out fast enough, before now you've got more leaks than you know what to do with, and you've got just that one simple little bucket, and hopefully it's doing the job for you. So automation helps and finally kind of gets you ahead and focus on the lesser problems that you need to complete and take care of. So to kind of do a little bit of recap for us here, just talked about layered process audits and kind of the value of layered process audits, most importantly, how they can be deployed, what's the kind of the benefits of going with an LPA system and the solution. Once you've made that decision to do layered process audits and implement that, how can you do that effectively? By writing the right questions, asking the right folks to do those specific types of audits. From there, is the whole organization on board with this? Are they all rowing in the right direction, I guess? Are they able to complete and foster that culture of quality within the organization, or do you have some folks that are kind of leaving their oars in the water and not working too well for you? Overcoming those challenges and automating the whole LPA system with an automated solution really benefits and helps out, kind of gets them away from that archaic paper process and killing of trees. So it's a nice way to actually keep everything together. And then obviously closing the loop on the data, making sure that you guys are able to drive metrics and analytics from the data. Whatever's coming in from the shop floor, it's great to have visibility immediately as to what's happening. And so it's kind of just to recap and to kind of give you kind of the last little bit, I wanted to share a quick demonstration. If you don't remember anything I said today, remember this video, because this is probably a better way to talk about Beacon here than just me going on for 35 minutes. So.
You want to make a positive impact on quality. While aiming for higher quality, you find and fix mistakes as quickly as you can. But most organizations rely on outdated tools and methods, so making your corrections stick is a challenge. Eventually, you fall behind, and often it's your customers that find the mistakes instead of you. It's time to get your team engaged in quality. The right tool can bring everyone together to communicate, measure, learn, and improve. Beacon is a cloud-based process verification system that gets all of your people engaged in quality. It's designed to handle all types of audits and inspections. It's especially strong at managing layered process audits, an approach featuring quick, high-frequency checks that involve multiple layers of the entire organization. You can now have visibility into how things are being done each and every day, assuring you that processes are being completed correctly, performance is improving, costs are dropping, and customer satisfaction is rising. No more chasing paper. Email reminders and personalized dashboards improve awareness and allow you to identify and correct issues that have the greatest impact on your business. Tags can be used to manage and organize content and assign random questions to help ensure engagement and accuracy. Beacon also utilizes the camera in your device to document and clarify instructions, capture evidence, and provide proof of performance. A powerful scheduler ensures audit coverage across users, documents, and locations. Closed-loop mitigation and CAPA features within Beacon means non-conformances are tracked and closed with one system. And it's easy to use. With an intuitive, mobile-oriented design, Beacon ensures full compatibility and functionality on virtually any device. It even works when you're offline, meaning you can conduct checks anywhere, anytime. No network required. With Beacon, your organization can be assured that every job is being done correctly, efficiently, and with timely precision. After all, shouldn't everything be done with ease?
All right, thank you. Like I said, if you forget everything I said, that's pretty decent right there. Any questions I can answer for you guys about layered process audits? If not, I've got a booth right over there. I'm happy to discuss or give you guys even a kind of an in-person presentation or a demonstration. So we'll kill that. All right. Good to go. All right. Any other questions I can answer for you? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks for staying awake.